I'm just worried about getting through the areas that we have to get done. Sluicing is the #1 priority.
100?
And 10?
110. Go 105?
I don't haggle.
What happens when a gold miner with a 10,000-ounce goal starts his season with the worst cleanup he's ever had? You get the most explosive season of gold rush ever. Parker Schnabel's nightmare start was just the beginning. We'll show you exactly how a single broken part on a conveyor can cost thousands, why a father would seemingly sabotage his own son's new mining venture, and how a stunning comeback led to a $750,000 payday.
See, I'm not counting either. Cousin Mike is counting. You're too late. You're too late. Yeah, I'm not counting. I'm the boss. You're the one counting. That.
Robbie is pouring.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay.
Every secret, every breakdown, and every massive gold haul from Season 15 is about to be uncovered. Parker's frozen nightmare. Parker Schnabel, the wunderkind of the Klondike, walked into Season 15 with a goal so ambitious it bordered on insanity: 10,000 ounces of gold. To hit that number, his crew needed to pull in at least 430 ounces every single week for 6 months straight. That's the weight of about 32 bowling balls in pure gold. He started with what seemed like a safe bet, re-sluicing the gravel piles from the previous year's legendary money pit cut, a spot that had practically printed money for him. But not all things are what they seem.
I expect a bit of calibration problems on this ground of like our process and figuring out the most efficient way of doing things, right? Like I expect those problems.
Well, should we go see if we can find a little bit more?
The first cleanup was a disaster. His massive wash plant, Big Red, produced a pathetic 5.6 ounces. That's barely $14,000, a rounding error for an operation of his size and his worst cleanup ever. The failure of the money pit forced a sudden, drastic change in strategy. Parker pivoted his entire operation to a new area known as the Long Cut. This is where the real trouble began. The thing nobody tells you about moving a mining operation is that it's like waking a sleeping giant. A million things can go wrong. His other wash plant, Roxanne, immediately started breaking down. First, the suction basket clogged with mud thick enough to stop a tank. Then, the spray bars broke. Then, the radial stacker, a key piece of equipment for moving tailings, went down. Each breakdown was a hemorrhage of time and money, with the gold target slipping further and further away. After a frantic series of repairs, the crew managed to get a second cleanup done. The result? 30.8 ounces, worth around $77,000. It was a step up from the first weigh-in, but still disastrously short of the 400-plus ounces they needed weekly. What many overlooked was the sheer scale of Parker's operation. To even get to the pay dirt, his crew relies on a massive super conveyor to remove tons of overburden, and just when they needed it most, that conveyor snapped its drive shaft, cracking sprockets and throwing a chain.
Yeah, the sprockets are cooked as well. You can see now it's a lot bigger job, which is a no bueno rubber ducky.
Well, we may as well get right at it because I know they need this thing.
The 6 hours of downtime felt like an eternity. To put it mildly, the season was turning into a complete catastrophe. The final blow came from Mother Nature herself. A persistent cold snap froze the ground solid in the Long Cut, making it nearly impossible to dig and sending operating costs through the roof. Faced with mounting losses and an impossible situation, Parker made a decision that shocked everyone. He shut down Roxanne. Not for a day, but for 3 weeks. He was gambling that the sun would thaw the ground naturally, saving him a fortune in fuel costs, but it also meant his colossal 10,000-ounce goal was officially dead in the water. It was a brutal, humbling retreat for the king of the Klondike. In a final act before the shutdown, the crew pushed for one last cleanup. The result was 152.3 ounces, worth over $380,000. It was a massive improvement, but the victory felt hollow. But as Parker's operation went dark, a new alliance was just beginning to spark, a Beats civil war. While Parker was battling his frozen kingdom, a civil war was brewing within the Beats dynasty. Kevin Beats, Tony Beats' eldest son, finally had enough of working under his father's thumb. He took his life savings, leased the 44-acre Scribner Creek claim from Tony, and set out to build his own empire. To do it, he poached Brennan Rule, Parker Schnabel's former master dirt mover, as his foreman. Their goal was 1,000 ounces. It was a bold move, but from the very beginning, it seemed like his own father was setting him up to fail. You see, the heavy equipment Kevin borrowed from Tony arrived with a critical piece missing, the ripper shank for his D10 dozer, a massive steel claw needed to tear through the tough ground. Without the ripper, Kevin's operation was dead before it started. He was stuck, out of options, and facing humiliation. And then, the unthinkable happened. Parker Schnabel, his father's biggest rival and his new foreman's old boss, threw him a lifeline. In a shocking twist, Parker agreed to sell Kevin a ripper shank for $110,000 with the promise of a flexible payment plan. It was a moment that sent ripples through the Klondike. Many people are crazy about the idea of a good old-fashioned rivalry, but this was a sign that the old ways were changing. The deal, however, was far from a simple transaction. The thing nobody tells you about heavy machinery is that parts are not one size fits all. The ripper shank from Parker's dozer didn't fit Kevin's machine. The mounting gap was too narrow. In a desperate act of field engineering, Kevin had to fire up an air arc welder, a tool that uses a carbon rod and compressed air to gouge out metal, to painstakingly widen the gap. It was a gritty, difficult job that showcased Kevin's determination to succeed on his own terms. But the equipment problems, courtesy of his father, were just beginning. The rock truck he borrowed from Tony had a diff lock malfunction, and his rookie operator, Hunter Cannon, was struggling to keep the dirt moving.
No, a lot of this is just Tony's not fixing it. So when it finally gets to me and it grenades, it's now my problem.
Says Tony's sloppy seconds.
Not even sloppy seconds. On the trash.
Frustrated and losing precious time, Kevin made another bold decision. He went back to Parker Schnabel and bought a rock truck for another $110,000. He was now deep in debt to his father's rival, a situation that would have been unimaginable just weeks before. The final insult came when Kevin was shut down by a lack of a dewatering pump. Tony had promised to lend him one, but when Kevin called, Tony claimed it was unavailable. This forced Kevin to drive to his father's site, find a pump himself, and discover it was broken. The so-called Murphy switch needed fixing, another delay in a season full of them, all seemingly orchestrated by his own family. While Kevin fought for scraps, his father was pulling in gold by the truckload. A rock becomes a wrecking ball. While his son struggled with second-hand gear and missing parts, Tony Beets was having the best start to a season in his entire career. The Viking of the Klondike had 2 massive wash plants running at full throttle at Indian River, and the gold was pouring in. His goal was 5,000 ounces, and he was already well on his way, banking an incredible 312 ounces right out of the gate. Within just 2 weeks, Tony had mined 774 ounces of gold, worth a staggering $1.9 million. He was crushing his previous records, proving that even with family drama swirling, his focus on the gold was unshakable. But even a king faces challenges. One of his wash plants, a 45-ton beast named Slew a Lot, was in trouble. The fine tailings, the waste material left after sluicing, were piling up so high they threatened to bury the machine. A decision was made to move the entire plant 1 full mile to a higher, more stable pad. This was a high-risk maneuver, a delicate, slow-motion dance with a piece of equipment the weight of 9 adult elephants.
So if I have the whole wash plant slide in there, then that would the whole season up right there.
The job fell to Tony's cousin, Mike. One wrong move, one slip, and the entire plant could topple over, ending the season for that part of the operation. The move was a success, but the celebration was short-lived. Shortly after restarting, a massive rock, a boulder that had somehow slipped through the initial sorting grates, came crashing down the sluice and smashed the screen deck's impact plate. The entire plant shuddered to a halt. To put it mildly, it was a catastrophic failure. The screen deck is the heart of the wash plant, shaking and sorting the pay dirt. Without it, they were just washing mud. Once again, it was up to Mike to perform emergency surgery, welding a new, stronger plate into place to withstand the relentless pounding of the pay dirt. The repair held, and the first cleanup after the move and the fix yielded 75.3 ounces, worth over $188,000. The success continued. The next weigh-in from Slew a Lot was a monster, 146.1 ounces, worth over $365,000. This pushed Tony's season total to an incredible 1,250 ounces, valued at over $3.1 million. Tony was on a legendary run, proving that while new alliances and rivalries were shifting the landscape of the Klondike, the old king still knew how to find the gold. What many overlooked was that another miner, one who had been absent from the fields, was about to make a thunderous return. A comeback story was unfolding that would result in the biggest cleanup of the season. $750,000. Rick Ness's return to Gold Rush was a story in itself. After taking a season off to deal with personal issues, many wondered if he had lost his touch. He came back with a clear head and a modest goal of 1,500 ounces. He set up his operation in an area known as Rally Valley, a piece of ground that held promise, but no guarantees. For weeks, his crew moved dirt, methodically stripping away layers of overburden, searching for the pay layer. The work was slow, and the pressure was building. Then, his operator Bailey Carton's excavator bucket hit something different. It wasn't rock, it wasn't frozen muck, it was bedrock. You see, for a gold miner, hitting bedrock is the ultimate eureka moment.
I'm very excited what I see right there. I've been waiting to see bedrock in this hole. We've got it right here. This is where the good stuff is. We're either on the best gold in this hole or we're very close to it. So that's exciting.
Gold, being incredibly dense, 19 times heavier than water, sinks over millennia, settling on the very bottom layer of ancient creek beds, which is the bedrock. Finding it meant they had finally reached the richest pay dirt, the layer where the gold had been accumulating for centuries. The excitement in Rick's camp was electric. They knew they were onto something big, but no one could have predicted just how big it would be. They ran the bedrock pay through their wash plant, Monster, and waited for the cleanup. The moment of truth came at the gold weigh. As Rick poured the gold from the cleanup into the pan, it was clear this was no ordinary haul. It just kept coming. The scale climbed higher and higher, blowing past their previous records. The final tally was jaw-dropping: 315.71 ounces. In a single cleanup, Rick Ness and his crew had mined over $750,000 worth of gold. It was not just his best gold haul ever. It was one of the single biggest cleanups of the entire season across all the mining crews. It was a stunning vindication for Rick, a powerful statement that he was not only back, but he was back as a major player in the Klondike. This massive haul changed everything for Rick's season, putting him firmly on track to hit his goal and silencing any doubters. It was a testament to his perseverance and a reminder that in the goldfields, a fortune can be found in a single moment, right on the bedrock. But as the gold totals climbed and the stories got bigger, a question started to linger for many viewers watching from home. Is any of this actually real? Are we seeing the whole picture, or is there something else going on behind the scenes? The thing is, when you see numbers this big and drama this intense, you have to wonder if it's all just a little too perfect. So, we've seen it all: Parker's disastrous start and dramatic shutdown, the unbelievable alliance between Kevin Beets and Parker Schnabel, seemingly born out of a family feud, Tony Beets pulling in millions while his son struggles, and Rick Ness making a comeback for the ages with a single, mind-blowing gold haul. It's a season filled with incredible highs and devastating lows. But it begs the question that hangs over every reality show. How much of this can we really believe? Are these miners truly living on the edge, or are we missing key details? So what do you think? Is it pure skill and luck, or is the hand of TV production guiding their fate? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.